Welcome to the NEI Podcast. On this show, psychiatrist, psychopharmacologist, and mental health advocate, Dr. Andrew Cutler sits with renowned mental health experts from a range of backgrounds to discuss breakthroughs and best practices for treating patients with mental health conditions.
Hello, this is Dr. Andy Cutler, Chief Medical Officer of the Neuroscience Education Institute. And in this particular podcast, we're going to be doing something a little different. Normally in our podcasts, we talk about a specific topic and it's educational. But this one, we want to talk about NEI's live meetings, our congresses. And with me is Debbi Morrissette. Debbi, how are you?
Hi, Andy. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Debbi, what is your title now?
I am Senior Director of Educational Development at NEI.
Well, I don't see you as senior. You're not that old, but you are certainly senior in talent. So, well, let's talk a little bit about what makes NEI special as opposed to maybe other meetings that people might attend. Well, NEI's distinguished itself by providing high-quality, visually engaging, and evidence-based educational activities that are designed to help increase the competence of healthcare providers in the diagnosis and treatment of mental health disorders. We specialize in psychopharmacology, but we also are steeped in principles of adult learning. Well, it turns out that adults learn better and retain more with a little bit of fun in the learning environment. We also try to make it as interactive as we can. Now, when we talk about the visual language, psychopharmacology, we're trying to bring it to life on stage through the visual language of psychopharmacology that Dr. Stahl has created. And his superpower has always been his ability to simplify complex scientific concepts through this innovative use of visual elements. And of course, Debbi, something that is near and dear to your heart is something very unique that we do, which is our focuser videos. And the concept here is that when you're settling down at the beginning of a lecture, a focuser video literally helps you to transition into the learning environment and to get focused. So Debbi, if you don't know, is one of the geniuses behind the videos, not only as a writer of the songs, but as a performer, and she is a phenomenal professional singer. Debbi, how can you be a PhD in neuroscience and as brilliant as you are and be such a great singer?
Well, thank you, Andy. So I always sang as a child. I was in chorus and sang national anthem at high school football games. And I loved music, but I didn't seek it as a career path. That's a very difficult career to make it in. Plus, I really love science. I always have. A very curious person. And so I wanted to study the brain and went into neuroscience, and I sang here and there. I was in a band, a cover band.
You sang professionally, you did?
But it was for fun. But with NEI, I happened to have this very rare, I think, situation where both of my passions, neuroscience and music, have collided. Yes. And 15 years now of doing this, and I still enjoy every single minute of it.
Well, it's certainly one of the unique things that we have, and focusers, believe it or not, come out of principles of adult education. And we have many that have become quite famous, of course, and people can find them on YouTube. It's the NEI Psychopharm channel. Many of them come to mind. One of them is the Peens, the Dones, 2 Pips and a Rip. There's also DSM-5 to Staying Alive. And then Debbi, you and I starred in 2 different videos. One, of course, was Sweet MOC, and the other was Highway to Well.
Yes.
What are some of your favorites that you've sang?
Well, fresh in my mind right now, of course, is I Love Muscarinic Control, which debuted in 2023. We've got...
And that's to a Joan Jett song.
It is. That is to I Love Rock and Roll. And we've got some brand new ones we're going to be debuting this year. Mm-hmm. One of them that is my favorite right now is Glutey Swims with Lose Control. And
the Teddy Swim.
That is educating on what happens when NMDA receptors lose control.
Well, that's exciting. You know, two of my favorite performances of yours, though, I have to confess, is I Blocked Me Some VMAT 2 and Don't You Want Psychedelic Drugs, I believe. I think you actually outsang Grace Slick at the original version of that.
Thank you, Andy. You're too kind.
Yeah. Well, it's true. Now, some other things that make our meetings a little different and unique is we have a one-track agenda, meaning that some meetings will have several talks at the same time, and then sometimes you're conflicted. I want to see two of these things at the same time, but we just have one-track agenda so everybody gets the same information. Another thing that I'm very proud of is how interactive our faculty are and how we really pay attention to questions and answers. And one of the things that we're trying to do is find more and more ways to address all the great questions that come from the audience. Debbi, what have we done with the Fall Congress coming up in November to try to provide more opportunity for that?
Yes, Andy, we get a lot of feedback of attendees asking for more time to ask questions. And one way we address that is with the extended Q&A podcast that we put on. But we really tried to implement something new for Fall Congress to address the desire for more Q&A time. So we have some built-in panel Q&A sessions with the faculty who are giving related sessions. Right. So hopefully we can have more questions addressed and get the different faculty perspectives, which I always love to hear that.
Me too. So more than one faculty member on stage at the same time in an actual dedicated slot of time for a Q&A. The other thing I have to say is I'm very proud of our faculty. I like to say that we curate our faculty. And this gets back to one of Dr. Stahl's original concepts, which is that I don't just want people who are really knowledgeable and experts in the field. I want great teachers and communicators. And that's what happened with me when he picked me out of a crowd 25 years ago. I wasn't that well known. I was a nobody, but he said, "Hey, you're pretty smart and you're a good teacher. I want you to join my faculty." And I said, "Yes, sir. Okay." So we have continued that tradition, I would say, and I'm very proud of some of our newer faculty that we've found, and that we actually also do training and feedback. We develop our faculty, which is a little bit unique. And of course, we have a whole team. We have a content team that helps faculty put together their content. We have graphic artists and people that help with our visuals. So it's really a whole team of people behind the scenes, Debbi.
It is, and it takes a village. But we really do have the cream of the crop when it comes to our faculty speakers. And as you mentioned, we are bringing in some fresh faculty, but they are also carefully selected for their expertise, but also for their ability to engage the audience, because when the audience is engaged, it's a lot easier to learn. And some of what we're teaching is complex stuff.
That is true.
So the more fun you can add to that and the more engagement, the better.
You know, you just reminded me of another principle that we're founded on. And another one of Dr. Stahl's ideas was, look, we don't have a blood test or an X-ray to pick the perfect medicine for the patient. But the more you understand about the neurobiology, the circuitry, and especially the mechanism of action of these various medications, maybe we can do a better job matching the medicine to the individual patient based on their symptoms, circuits, and networks, and how these things work. So I'm certainly very proud of that as well.
That also helps, I would say, in determining rational polypharmacy, how to combine medications. If you really know the mechanisms by which they act, at which receptors, and what they're doing there at those receptors and to the various circuits, and even at the network level, you can better determine what combinations may or may not work.
That's so true. As we know, many of our patients in mental health end up on more than one medication. And certainly a concept we've talked about for years is rational polypharmacy versus irrational polypharmacy. Now, one other thing I want to brag about our faculty is we really do want our attendees to come up to us and engage with us. And I'm very proud that our faculty doesn't just come in, give a talk, and leave. You will see them hanging around in the hallway, in the exhibit hall, at the poster sessions, And we really want you to come up and talk to us. You might not get your question answered during the session, but if you have a question or a patient you want to present to us, that's definitely one of the criteria that we use to select our faculty, and I'm very, very proud of that. I think it's a community of learning. I really do. I think we create a sense of community, of joyous learners, if you will. And I've heard from many attendees that they feel that way too, that one of their favorite parts is interacting with the other attendees and their peers, and how we create this environment that they all kind of really bond and have a good time together and learn from each other as well. Now, I'm also proud that we do talk a lot about complex science, neurobiology, psychopharmacology, but one of the things too is we try very hard to be clinically focused and very relevant, and to help our audience enhance their clinical skills and knowledge. So at this year's Fall Congress, we're going to have our expert faculty cover everything from traditional medications to things that are brand new, and even some things that are in late phase development that may be coming to the market very soon. And I think that's important to provide a sense of excitement and optimism that there are newer tools coming to help us, because sometimes it's very difficult treating our patients.
Well, I always say, I feel that the more tools that we have available in the toolbox, the better chance we have of being able to find the right strategy for treating an individual patient. So the more the merrier.
Yeah. But it's not just about medications. Another thing I'm proud of is, while our main focus, of course, is psychopharmacology, we also talk about other modalities. For instance, we're now starting to talk more and more about prescription digital therapies and neuromodulation. And we're, of course, always talking about various modes of psychotherapy and lifestyle and things like that. So we realize that, medicine isn't always the total solution here. And I'm really proud of that as well. Also, you can't learn everything in your training. We know that. And so for many of us, most of what I've learned has been probably after my training, and we try to help you with filling that need as well.
That is the thing with medicine, with science. Mm-hmm. It is ever evolving.
Yes, it is. And we're in a very exciting time right now, Debbie. I like to say we're in the third wave, or the third phase, third generation of psychopharmacology. The first, of course, was in the 1950s. We had monoamine oxidase inhibitors, tricyclic antidepressants, and of course our first generation are typical antipsychotics. When I entered the field in the 1980s and early 90s, that was the second phase. We had SSRIs, SNRIs, the atypical antipsychotics. Very exciting time. But now all of those medicines still work on basically the monoamine system, which is serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. But now we're going beyond monoamines. And so we have drugs that work on glutamate. We have drugs that work on GABA. We have drugs that work on the muscarinic cholinergic system. And we're going to be talking about things like orexins and other kinds of neurotransmitter systems. So stay tuned for all of that. But
I'd like to add there as well, there's also, in addition to these new mechanisms, new agents, there's also a fine-tuning of our so-called atypical antipsychotics, which I, as you know, will not call them that. I call them serotonin dopamine antagonists and partial agonists, otherwise known as STAPAs. But we're really seeing the evolution of those medications as well in terms of treating a broad range of mood disorders and also improvements in tolerability.
That's right. Yeah, and speaking of that, our first session, we kick off with something having to do with stigma. And I'm very proud we talk about stigma. And as you said, we're talking about nomenclature. And these are very important topics to talk about in order to engage our patients and do, of course, shared decision-making and collaborative care. So the Fall Congress kicks off with a talk entitled Cracking the Stigma Enigma, focusing on strategies to improve the acceptance and appropriate treatment of bipolar disorders. And that's going to be given by myself and my good friend Hara Oyedeji. Okay, we also have a session that I'm very excited about called Strategies for Deprescribing Psychotropic Medications. Now, what is that about?
So this is a topic that Jeff Strawn, who is one of our NEI faculty speakers, and he really wanted to talk about this. And Andy, I believe there's a book.
There is a book coming out that Jeff Strawn and Dr. Stahl have been working on about deprescribing. I want to tell you also, Jonathan Meyer, Les Citrome, and I are very big fans of this concept. And I've even joked over the years, sometimes I feel like I've done more good in my career taking people off medicine than putting them on medicine. But of course, the brain doesn't like you to do things too fast. You have to be careful, especially if somebody's been on a medicine for a long time. So we need more information on how to think about deprescribing medicines, cleaning somebody up when you feel like someone should not be on the whole group of a cast of medicines that they're on.
Well, I think that lends to where you were saying that we all, in addition to teaching the complex science and neurobiology, is really trying to provide practical tips for prescribers and deprescribers.
Yes,
so that talk will really be providing some practical guidance for deprescribing.
And two other sessions that I'm really looking forward to are a special session on bipolar disorder and creativity, which is actually called Bipolarity as a Superpower, Genius, Creativity, and Bipolar Disorder. And that's something that Dr. Stahl has really been interested in, and he's actually currently writing a book on the famous artist Jackson Pollock, who was bipolar, and how creative he was. He's already written a book on Nikola Tesla, the brilliant scientist who was bipolar as well. And joining him, of course, are going to be our superstar faculty, Dr. Roger McIntyre.
And Andy Cutler.
And me. I'll be tagging along because that's something I'm very... in our NEI podcast series a couple of years ago, I had on as a guest Dr. Tiffany Greenwood. She is a PhD researcher at UC San Diego, and her whole area of research is creativity and bipolar disorder. And she blew my mind with some of the different ways people with bipolar process information and can see things that other people may not and put things together and be quite creative. And creativity doesn't always have to be artistic in an artistic sense, too. I've treated a number of entrepreneurs who are extremely creative in business and so on.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this topic. I have been working with Dr. Stahl and John Gates, who's a Pollock expert, on the research on Pollock and his superpower that really involves this bipolar condition, but also the creativity that comes with it. And I really wanted to include this talk and call it Bipolarity as a Superpower because it ties right into that talk we're going to open up with about stigma.
Right.
Because I think that's helpful to patients to point out that maybe there are some pros to having a bipolar disorder.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important that we are able to discuss that with patients.
Yes. I think we always want to help people to not only understand their symptoms and their weaknesses, but their strengths and the things that they're good at and learn how to enhance those things as well. Now, another session that I'm really excited about because it's a topic we don't hear a whole lot about because there hasn't been a medication FDA approved in over 20 years for this, and that's PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I am really proud to be giving this talk with a good friend of mine who is really the world's authority on PTSD, Dr. Lori Davis. And she has been doing research and writing about this topic for many years. She's also an excellent speaker, so she fits right in as far as expertise and teaching ability. Okay, a couple of other things that we do that are really valuable to our attendees include a poster session. And what's great about our poster session is that posters that are presented at our meeting, the abstracts are published in our journal called CNS Spectrums. Now, why is that important? That means these posters are citable. That means if I'm writing a paper, I can use the poster as a reference, as a citation in my paper. And so that's very valuable for whoever has done the research or is presenting the poster.
Yes, and it's a wonderful opportunity for young investigators to present their research or case study. And the poster sessions are always so enjoyable. And of course, we pick winners of the poster session.
Well, we award especially young, newer researchers, and Roger McIntyre and I go around and surprise them and give them their awards, and it's very exciting. Also, these poster sessions will really give you a sense of the groundbreaking research and what's really going on behind the scenes. Before a medication gets onto the market and in clinicians' hands, there's a whole lot of work that has to be done to satisfy the FDA requirements. And so you'll be able to see a lot of that kind of research that's going on some things that may be right around the corner and may be coming soon, either a brand new medicine or a medicine that's on the market being studied for a new indication. Also, of course, let's not forget our exhibit hall, where we have various industry, pharmaceutical companies, other companies that make products and services that can help us and our patients. And this can help you discover the latest tools and resources to enhance your practice.
It also gives the opportunity really to speak with the experts in a particular product and really ask the questions that might pertain to how best to use medication or a digital therapeutic to treat your patient. And so it's a nice opportunity to have some of that interactive time and get some questions answered.
Well, you'll also notice, too, our faculty floats through the exhibit hall. And again, we love when you come up to us. And we can have informal interactions like that. So we want to wrap up now and just say that the congresses we have, and let's remind people, we have 2 live meetings a year. We have our NEI Spring Congress, but we also have our Fall Congress, which is in November, and which we have every year at the wonderful Broadmoor Resort in Colorado Springs, just one of the grand old hotels.
Oh boy, the Broadmoor.
Isn't it something? It's a really special place.
Come for the Broadmoor, but stay for the education.
Well said. So our 2 meetings, our congresses, are an educational journey designed to enhance your clinical decision-making skills. Whether you join us in the calming spring environment of Florida, because next year we'll be in Orlando, Florida. For the next 3 years, actually, we'll be there. Or the inspiring fall landscapes of Colorado. And last year we had some wonderful snowfall, beautiful scenery. You'll be immersed in comprehensive sessions that will transform the way you treat and manage mental health. So we're really looking forward to seeing you live at our meetings. Or, of course, we do have a virtual option if you're not able to travel.
Yes, and Andy, I would like to add, you will get all of what you mentioned at our meetings, but you'll also get fun. We do include the fun.
Yeah, fun comes standard, and also CME credits. So I want to thank you for listening, and for more information and to figure out when and where our meetings are and how you can register, please go to our website, NEIglobal.com. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the NEI Podcast. Please let us know what you'd like to hear more about by leaving a review. Don't miss another episode. Subscribe today. For more information about NEI and our premier educational content, please visit NEIglobal.com.